All right, here we are with the Pirate Pulse. We got another episode for you guys. A good pod to talk about this past week. ECU went 3-1. A good recap on that. That's been the best week so far we've had for ECU baseball this year. Also, we got a Coastal Carolina preview, which is a big matchup for East Carolina coming in. You know, Coastal Carolina is ranked, so it's another chance for ECU to build a resume for their Omaha run when that happens. But let's get into it. I'm Trey Scott. We got Skylar Scott with us. A quick rundown. Like I said, ECU's 3-1 last week. We're going to talk about key stats. We're going to preview Gardner Webb and Coastal Carolina's matchup, and we're going to have some Q&As at the end. So starting off, how did it go last week, Chance? How do you think the 3-1 week for the Pirates went? They dropped that one game, which they shouldn't have dropped, but I'll let you talk about that as well. Let's talk about last week.
Yeah, man, we both said 3-1 last week was our prediction going in. So, I mean, I'm still excited to pick up 3 of those out of the 4. I feel like EC really needed this week. Looking back at Friday, it definitely hurts now that the Pirates really could have went 4-0. But I mean, they battled back. They ruled Indiana State on Saturday after giving up that 6-run spot in the top of the 7th, all with 2 outs. And then they battled back against a pretty good Virginia Tech team, and they really limited their offense to just singles and not letting them do what they want to do on the base path. So I thought the Pirates played really well. They're going to have to keep stacking these wins, though.
Yeah, got to keep stacking those wins. Also, it's good to see the guys get on the bag, but not only get on the bag, but get the guys that's on the bag into the dugout and in the right way. You know, scoring some runs for ECU has been big this past week because if they score a couple runs, they beat a ranked Carolina team, maybe 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
So seeing Coach Godwin figure out his lineup, we've seen a lot of different lineup changes. We've seen, based on lefties, based on righties, who's coming in. But Virginia Tech win was probably the best win of the weekend, no doubt. 6-1 win. Dixon Williams and Walker Barron continued with their 7-game streak. The freshman Braden Burst gets I think that was his first hit of the game, right? It was pinch hit.
Yeah, he had come in to play defense, and that was his first at bat. So I mean, you talking about big
Big
time.
clutch double, which probably for anybody else on that roster besides Alex Pelletier, that's probably a single.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a single, and then he rounded first, and like this kid is flying, man. He was moving,
and it won't even close.
Yeah, he was there by a mile.
So what stood out this week? What really stood out this week between the Pirates and from their previous weeks?
Man, it felt like the offense had finally found themselves there. You know, it felt like they finally were able to play ECU baseball, like Cliff Godwin's been saying. They would get guys on, they'd get guys over, get guys in. They did a lot of that, and that was super impressive to see it happen again. I mean, all 3 games they scored at least 6 runs. They scored 6 against Kent State, 13 against a good Indiana State team, and then 6 again against Virginia Tech. So I mean, it felt a lot better this weekend covering the games and writing them up than it did the last couple ones.
And one thing that hasn't changed is ECU's pitching. I mean, we got Norby still punching guys out. We got Sean Jenkins showing why he came as a, foregone his senior season, still 17 years old. Talk about the pitching and how dominant they were.
Man, they've been just as dominant as they've been since, the very first game. We can't give enough credit to Ethan Norby and what he's had to do stepping into the Friday night role, and he's been pretty much massive. He's deserved at least 2 of the wins. He pitched really well against UNC, pitched great yesterday. It kind of fell apart. So he wasn't able to get his first win there. But I mean, Sean Jenkins, you just talked about him. He looked really, really impressive. But the bullpen, that's still been the biggest, like, wow. It felt like every guy that comes out of there is you don't have to worry about the game. It's on shutdown. You just got to count the outs. But I mean, Brad Pruitt, he gave up the 3-run home run on Friday, and then to bounce back and do what he did for us yesterday, Sunday was super good to see. And then Ethan Young,
Yes, sir.
Man, that dude has it. I mean, he was up to 96. His slider was working really well off of that. And those two guys out there, if we keep them healthy, that's going to be a mean 1-2 punch out of that bullpen.
Hold that thought. We're gonna go right back to the pitch, and I want to hit my discussion points before we get deep dive into the pitch because there's a lot of great things to talk about there. Right now, like I said, recapping the week or recapping the season, the team is hitting 240 batting average. Is this a concern, or is just the team just getting it figured out, or just a makeup from them starting off at batting 180 the first week?
Yeah, I think it's more of a makeup. I mean, that first weekend was really bad. I mean, and they even improved. When we look back at the Carolina series, their batting average went up against the now top 4 team in the country. So I think they're really steadily improving. Guys are starting to feel more comfortable. These freshmen are going into their 4th week of D1 college baseball. So I mean, there's a lot for them. They had to adjust to. So I think they're getting better. It still does concern me. It's not. There's a couple of guys I want to see doing better, like Colby Wallace. I need to see my experienced hitter get back on track. But we've seen what Dixon Williams has done, what Walker Barron has done, what these guys off the bench can do. So I'm excited for the lineup. To just keep growing and seeing these young guys keep getting their opportunities.
Agreed. Now let's go back to that dominant pinch and bullpen, man. And I'll let you name off the guys. We got it in our notes and stuff, but man, 102 strikeouts and 95 innings. The opponent's hitting batting average is 207. Just off them two stats alone, it shows how dominant the pitching has been. And that's with losing 3 games to Carolina, where they hit the ball pretty good against us. They got timely runs and timely hits. But let's talk about the standout arms. I would love for you to start off with Ethan Young. Him coming out the bullpen, man, has been very, very exciting for this Pirates team. He comes in, he takes care of business. Period.
Yeah, I mean, he's just it was kind of unreal watching him this weekend. It was just it felt like he was unhittable. People knew what was coming. You knew the fastball was coming, but he just threw 97 right by you and just see if you could catch up to it. But I mean, opponents are hitting 149 off of him. I mean, that's not many. He's got 18 Ks in 13 innings. That's pretty impressive. At least one guy in every inning is going down, so you can count on one out, and you just got to find 2 more. But I mean, he's been super dominant, and then bouncing back off of guys like Ian White. He hasn't had that many opportunities since the opening weekend, just with how good teams have been. But I mean, he's another really good arm that they're trying to build up as a freshman.
We'll talk about some Sean Jenkins. 3.0 ERA, 164 batting average for the opponents, and 10 Ks and 15 innings pitched. For a 17-year-old, and we got to leave that. I can't help it. Every time I mention him his age. I got to leave that alone. But it's still amazing. It's amazing. But he's here. He's in college. He's a college athlete now. I don't care how old he is, and he's balling. He's balling.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you think?
he's been. I mean, it's been super impressive to see what a kid. When I was 17, there's no shot I'm doing what he's doing, and he's super mature. I think that's the most impressive part. He acts the part. He acts like he's been in college for 2-3 years now, and his stuff is really picking up. And he got 3 Ks in that first inning on Saturday, and that's probably the first time I've seen him come off the field like really amped up, and it felt like he was excited. And I think he's finding himself. He had a tough game against UNC, but he bounced back after that 3-run home run and didn't give up nothing else. So, I mean, he's got the stuff to be successful. You just keep stacking these weekends for him, and by the time he gets May, June, he might be one of the best arms in the entire country.
I have nothing to say against that. Take away 2 or 3 pitches, not innings. Take away 2 or 3 pitches, and his stats are even more amazing. There's 2 or 3 home runs. Is it 2 or 3 home runs? I know 2 of them.
He gave up 2, I believe, to one opening weekend, and then to the best catcher in the country on the second weekend.
The big boy from Carolina. All right, now let's get on Ethan Norby. The 4.32 ERA will fool you, man. It will fool you. Norby has been the man. He has been out there. He has done great things. he's got into some bad situations. The not help that ERA. Opening weekend he hit a couple of batters, and that kind of hurt his ERA to put the people on, and they got a good hit on him. But besides that, man, he's been outstanding. I have really enjoyed watching him go out there being in the zone. What have you seen from Ethan?
And he's been super competitive.
Yeah.
You talking about a guy? He's supposed to be a bullpen arm. We talked about it at meet today with Cliff Godwin. He was going to be his big utility guy. He could put him in any situation and know they'd be successful. But I didn't quite think that meant he'd be starting the very first game of every series for ECU and truly being successful. Yeah, ECU hasn't picked up the first win of any weekend yet, but man, they have been competitive on Friday nights when seeing the other team's best arm. So I think he's doing more than really what he was required to do, and I think we should be super grateful that we have a guy like Ethan to step up when some other guys really ain't healthy yet.
All right, I got 3 quick questions for you. Don't go in detail. I just want a straight answer from you. First question: who is ECU's most reliable pitcher right now?
It's got to be Ethan Young for me. He's been the most dominant, I think, in every performance.
All right, next question: what makes this pitching staff so effective? Because it's a little odd. It's not odd, but it's not the normal pitching staff. Like you said, Norby's a bullpen guy. He's not supposed to be the day one starter.
I think it's their ability to throw strikes. They have had walking problems, but we've seen those numbers come down, and they've really been attacking the zone these last 2 weekends.
Last one: what improvements need to be made to the already good pitching staff?
We just need some of these freshmen, Lance Williams and some other guys to just continue to develop and continue to throw strikes over the plate and know their stuff's good enough to be successful.
All right, moving on. Gardner Webb. We got a big matchup with Gardner Webb down in Fayetteville at Segra Stadium, neutral site. What do you know about this Gardner Webb team? Let our fans, let our viewers know, what is ECU getting into today.
Gardner Webb, they've been a little bit more competitive than I thought. I watched them a little bit versus App State this past weekend, and they got one hitter. He had 4 home runs on the Saturday game of that. So you
Wow.
got to pitch him pretty well. You got to work around him, but I think this pitch staff can be successful, and them guys will get fired up to come and play ECU, as a lot of teams are. But ECU got to go play their own game. They can't worry about nobody else. They got to do what's been helping them be successful, and that offense keeps up putting 6 runs a game like the past 3 games. I don't see ECU really having a hard time in this one.
All right, be Coach Cliff again this week on this episode. Who's pitching today? This is all prediction. This is all predictions, right?
Yeah. Bradley Zayak, I'd have to assume he didn't throw on Sunday, which was a little odd, but he's been the Sunday starter for the other 2 weekend games, and I expect maybe Cliff just wanting to put him in that role on Tuesday to help him, keep developing and not have so much pressure on him for the weekend.
Picking up these wins, like we have said to each other over and over, they need to stack wins. They need to stack wins. They need to stack wins. And once they start stacking wins, that resume is going to start building. What is the key factors to securing a win today?
I think we continue to have guys like Dixon and Walker Barron have really good at bats. They've looked really good. Guys like Austin Irby, he had 2 home runs this weekend, so him to continue to get better. But for me, it's the bottom of that lineup to keep getting on base. They were really good this weekend of finding times to get on for that top of the lineup to bring them around.
Okay. All right. Couple more questions. How does playing in a minor league stadium, how does that affect the game? We've seen it in the Durham Bull Stadium. It was beautiful. It was huge. I've never been to this stadium in Fayetteville, so I don't know. How does this affect the game compared to being back at home or a regular college stadium?
Yeah, it's a little different just because, it's obviously it's bigger. The fans are more spread out, as you would say. They're not all on top of you like Greenville. There's a lot of noise. So you have to find your kind of own, what am I trying to say? Like your own motivation. You're not going to have that. There's going to be some fans there, but they're not going to be like Greenville. They played there last year against UNC. So, ECU's a little comfortable playing there. they just got to keep doing what they're doing. They haven't hit that many home runs, as a huge power hitting team, but just see if they can run into a ball, hit the ball in the gap, and just keep being successful.
Good deal. Um, one more thing for this particular game before we move to Coastal Carolina preview. What what lineup change is Cliff done making changes in the lineup, or is this something we're going to see all season? Is this something you're going to see based off left hand, right hand pitchers? But even that, what changes can we expect in the batting lineup, or even pitching adjustments?
Man, who really knows with Coach Cliff Godwin if you followed the program the last couple of years? It's just sometimes you don't know, but he's been one of the best, most successful coaches in the country, so you really can't question him. But there's been so many guys that's good off the bench. Michael Kellenick had a huge 3-0 count. Coach Godwin gave him the swing sign, and he put a RBI sack fly in the right field to add a run. The Braden Burrs double, 2 RBIs. John Collins coming off the bench and starting this weekend. He had a pretty good weekend. Just there's a lot of guys that are really good. This team's super deep. I don't know how you make a lineup with this many really good players, but it's got to be super tough for them.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Coastal Carolina, a big matchup this weekend. Coastal Carolina's top 25 teams. Some polls are top 15. Their biggest strengths is their offense and deep lineup. What are some of the keys for ECU going against Coastal Carolina to make sure they can stack these wins?
They're going to have to pitch lights out like they did against Carolina. They're going to have to keep their offense to be able to make up some runs. You can't give up 8+ runs to this team, or you really might be in trouble. Their lineup can hit 1 through 9. They got a ex ECU athlete of Colby Thorndike over there, and he's really developed. But that lineup, man, it's pretty super scary. They got a lot of older guys over there. They've been playing college ball for 2 or 3 years now, so you got to pitch to them really well. But I don't know if I can question our pitching staff, to be honest.
I agree. Moving on to something a little bit deeper and a little bit farther down the road, it's kind of crazy to think about, be talking about playoffs, postseason runs at the first week of March. But these games matter, and these games are looked upon when you go to April, May, and you see these games, and you see that this is what they did against this ranked opponent. This ranked. How much does this? I'm sorry. How much does this series mean to the postseason for ECU?
This is the biggest series. Obviously Carolina was a huge series, but we were probably super overmatched there. Let's be honest. But this is a more see if ECU belongs series. This is should be more competitive series. It shouldn't be a sweep. Knock on wood for ECU, we shouldn't be getting swept, but they're getting better. Let's see if they really made the jump from the UNC series to now, or has it been maybe the competition wasn't as great as we've been playing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting ECU to be really good this weekend. We've seen what they were. They were competitive against UNC. Should have won 2 of those games, in my opinion, but they didn't. UNC found a way to win. ECU has to find a way to win against a good team.
How do you compare this team to the how do I say this? How do you compare this team that they're playing, Coastal Carolina, to Carolina, considering Carolina's a top 10 team? Is this Coastal Carolina team much different from Carolina, or are they about the same strength in your opinion?
No, Carolina's miles ahead of anybody outside of the top 10. I give a lot of credit to UNC to what they've done, but don't get me wrong, this Coastal team's good. They're going to make you earn every single run. You got to win every single pitch. It's going to be a battle in Greenville, which is I love to see a good weekend battle instead of playing some teams that don't really help us.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend's going to help us, even if we might lose a game or 2. It's going to help you learn better. You're going to get better from this weekend. That's one thing we know for sure. ECU will get better. Will they build their resume? We'll see. It's going to come down to a lot of guys continue to get better. Dixon Williams continue to taking that leap as in his junior year. Guys like Sean Jenkins being a really good Saturday guy, and that bullpen to just keep getting better. I don't know how much better they can get, but they got to find a way, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. They just got to keep getting better, got to find their ways. find Ethan Norby's max of, all right, it's time to take him out. He's losing control a little bit, but the first 3 or 4 innings for him has been great. So, and I'm sure Coach Godwin would figure that part out. What adjustments does the offense need to make to take down a high-powered team like Coastal?
I mean, I think they got to do exactly what they did this weekend. I know you were there for the second game for a little bit, but I mean, they were really good on Saturday, really good on Sunday. Their offense was really good on Friday, even. So I mean, they got to keep being what they were doing. They were getting base hits, timely. They were the timely base hits. 1 out, single, steal them. 1 out, single to score to do it on second. It felt like they were every inning they were finding a way to be competitive. It won't like 3 up, 3 down, like we've seen the first 2 weekends where it was either they scored a lot or they scored none. So I think the offense has got to keep doing what they're doing. They got to try to score. I mean, obviously, whoever scores the most wins. But when ECU scores six runs this past weekend, they won. So they got to keep doing that.
Good deal. Let's get to some fan questions. I saw you on Twitter. Reach out to the fan base, and what are some questions that the fans want to know. I'll lead it off because I have it, but here's some fans' questions that we received on Twitter. The first one: who is ECU's MVP right now?
Man, this is so tough because I mean, there's so many guys that probably deserve it, but if we're going to hitter, I think it's got to be a hitter, and it's got to be Dixon Williams.
Yeah,
I mean, he's I know Saturday and I think Sunday he had 3 singles each game. So I mean, you're talking about a guy that was getting on base all weekend for ECU. He's been getting better with his glove. He made some errors early in the season, but he's been pretty solid since then. And he's got elite speed. He gets on base. He's usually getting second. Either from a dude bunting him over or he's taking it himself. So for me, it's just got to be the junior leadership and what he's brought to the plate each and every game.
Okay. Next question: what's been the biggest improvement since opening weekend?
I think it's the lineup just not striking out. Yeah, they still strike out, but it's not 17 times like they did against the Sunday game for UNC or the George Mason game. I felt like the offense wasn't even having a competitive at bat all weekend against George Mason. But I think we're seeing longer at bats. They're getting in more hitters counts, more 3-2 counts. They're driving pitchers' pitch counts up. Earlier bullpen calls for the other team. You get to the team's bullpen, you're usually going to be pretty successful. And we've seen it when ECU gets to that bullpen, it's been pretty hard for teams to beat ECU.
Mm-hmm. Last and final question: what are the keys to winning against top-ranked teams? And we've answered this a couple times through this pod, but
I think ECU just needs to win one. I think they need to just get the first one under their belt, and then I think the series is from there. If Ethan Orby goes out there on Friday and continues to do what he's doing, we're eventually going to pick up a Friday win. It just, for whatever reason, it hasn't happened yet. Just for multiple reasons, outside of Ethan Norby, he's been locked in for his last 3 starts, and I expect nothing less. But the offense, I think this key is the offense. We've seen what the bullpen can do. We know how reliable they are. This offense has been shaky. Did it turn a corner? Did it really get better, or was it just a good weekend? So I think we'll answer that question this weekend and see how well they compete.
All right, well, good deal. This is all we got for the show so far. We'll have updates for today's game, in-game updates, post-game updates. We'll have live stats. We'll have post-game interviews. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, even Instagram now, the Pirate Pulse. And follow us on all social medias. Not only follow us, share, like, comment on our stuff. We love to get interactive with our fans. We love to talk. We love to, we want to keep talking outside of this podcast. Tell us what you think about this pod. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us where we're right. Also, subscribe to the podcast. We want people to see this. We want free content to reach the fans. We want people to follow the Pirate Pulse. As always, go Pirates. I'm Trey Scott.
I'm Jan Scott.
And there we are, the Pirate Pulse. We'll see you next week. Go Pirates.